You know, when you guys had those years-long smear campaign on Supermayor Tiffany Henyard, I said that, you guys don't really care about Dalton. You didn't care about Dalton. So all of this so-called scrutiny that you're placing upon Tiffany Henyard is a false pretense, and you're phony and fake, and you have no credibility. All the way up from the major newscasters who are covering and everyone else in between. And so that's came to pass. She's been, I think she was really illegally removed. When you talk about that fake caucus they had, where they had all the people waiting out in the cold, and again, for my main segue that I want to have for that is what's going on with Anton. He did speak on that with credibility, and that's great because of how good the trajectory of his platform was at that period, to then still take a righteous stance, a righteous stance for someone who he wasn't necessarily on her bandwagon or speaking positively of her, but something as flagrant as that and obviously bogus as that, by forcing people to stand out in the cold during your so-called caucus, and being a so-called democratic process and structure, and not allowing people within the building to participate, is an obvious fraud. And then what it was preceded by was a campaign that was strategic and widespread and collective. And I thought it didn't have any substance. And then it culminated with pretty much an illegal democratic process. And so I was glad that Anton spoke out on that. And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of the people that's attacking him right now, and that's been maintaining their attack on him since the Corey Holcomb situation. And that's why I'm trying to warn you guys, don't be seen in the reflection of your campaign right now, because you're not impacting his endorsements, you're not impacting the substance of those who check in with him, because we appreciate his content and his journalistic capabilities. And again, we're not all yes men. They're gonna, they're gonna immediately start to say disrespectful, flagrant backwardness type of statements. 1 second they're sitting around at a round table listening to a homosexual, and then if we show solidarity with someone who has conservative values and substance, and we're not going, and we don't agree with everything they say, but we're not going to just allow you to just smear their reputation, then they'll say something disparagingly against us to insinuate that we have some type of homosexual type of lustful admiration, just straight ignorance that they would call homophobic, right? And so, again, we're not yes men. We're gonna disagree with them on where we see some things. Where I disagree with it is what I would want him to speak better on the relations with the continent. That's my first priority. Is my continent. And so I would want the brother to understand the importance of that, to saying that he's pro-black. But I'm not going to smear his campaign off of having a gender base. And what their problem is that he has an opinion like that is, basically these guys too, they're basing it on a lot of jealousies. When you guys look at the, I don't want to make a psychoanalysis of it. If you just look at the basis of what they're saying on marriage and him working with the young lady there, and all of the assumptions that they're coming off of that, it's just if you are a male working with someone of another gender in a journalistic platform, according to their reasoning with Anton, is automatically something that's sexual. And so I just think it's disrespectful. I don't think it's becoming of Western black journalists. And they need to cut it out, get some other substance. There's a whole lot of things that's going on that's a substance as far as black affairs. Most of it is on the continent, of course, and that's why you don't want to cover it. You want to keep focus on bickering and being destructive of the community and one another, and not keeping the focus on what the solutions are. And most of the solutions are on the continent. And so that's where you need to be having the involvement with, the interaction with, the building of the relationships with, and stop using your platforms for ambushing each other and just promoting degradation. You know, I've listened to Cameron. You know, they just gave him this big show, him and Mason Bethel, who's doing who was a pastor. You know, he was the pastor, brother, and you know you got to call this brother out when he's saying these types of things to keep a level of morality, which is show that will keep the integrity. Because you know, I'm seeing him on the show. He's bragging about how, you know, he done sold more drugs than all of these guys who've been murdered in New York. Okay, for distributing and the chemical biological warfare products in the communities. Genocide, chemical warfare products in the community, what they making money off of, and he's talking about in this major platform how he's selling it, you know, on Madison in Cape Town, you know, and how, you know, if you're a youth, this your reputation is supposed to be. And then they had the hood hierarchy as all of the emblems of the brands of it. And this supposed to be Harlem culture that he's representing. And so, you know, these guys need to step it up, correct your brand representation, and do the right thing, what you're supposed to be representing. Like never before, yeah. Rubio was singing a variation of this for Europe in his latest speech. He say, Europe, I need you, imperial like never before. Rubio say, I need you, Europe, like never before, be imperial more. Hey, it's a lot more opportunities in the employees that I see that they were reporting on, among other opportunities, of course, that I think is of more substance than what Rubio was proposing, that I think would be of less heinous conclusions, right? And less heinous reflections, all right? There's a lot more opportunities there, Rubio. A lot of the workers who are going over there, who you guys are dishing off, you don't have any solutions for, and at the stage of their careers where they're supposed to be the most respected. And you talk about the development opportunities that can be, you know, I'm not a doom and gloom on the climate change thing, but I do think there's a lot more opportunities with going green that doesn't have to be doom and gloom based. We don't have to be scared into it. And so part of that is wanting to prevent any petroleum-based further development of the people who we're supposed to be having the relationships with the green development. And I think a lot of the employees who you don't have any solutions for, and a lot of the retirement options, when you talk about the volatility and the solutions that you are proposing with this speculative Ponzi, digital Ponzi schemes with this crypto type of stuff here. I think there's a lot of opportunity in their intellectual capital being beneficial for not only creating value chains and uplifting and creating diversified ways of having income for retirement, but it's just overall just better than what I think Rubio was doing in his speech. You know, I've been a huge supporter of Trump, but if I see them running out of continuing long-term continuance then I'll chime in those areas. And that's one of them. I think that speech there was not becoming of the accomplishments that they have going. And so they need to be a little bit better inspired than some of the reflections that I thought Rubio was doing. So we're gonna make sure we keep them focused on doing a good job there. It's the Boiler Monk MC, Surface Air Warfare, the qualification African Times News. Oh yeah, I also wanted to talk on that while we're speaking about the administration there. And you know, I had chimed in with their recent mentoring for the Sister Nicki Minaj. And you know, like I said, I think they need to do a better job of mentoring before they just throw out there to be vulnerable or to be attacked. And then I just saw recently that I don't know if this was sanctioned by, I'm pretty sure the Trump administration, if it was to become something that was, if Nikki's pretty, I don't know if Nicki would be pretty vulnerable to address it now because of her immigration situation, but it seemed pretty shady that, if that was official, and if they was using Cardi officially in the campaign, one of their advertisements, even though she was campaigning with Harris, and for them to use her in the campaign after she, you know, they're known nemesis of each other, you know, I'm hoping that I don't think that Nicki will respond to that, even though it's an obvious shade. If that's official, if that's an official page of Trump with all of that I just laid out, that everyone's aware of, obviously, then again, you know, you don't want to have, you know, be siding up with people that have them vulnerable after that. I think, you know, do your due diligence before you allow somebody to be brought on your presidential platform and put her career on the line. Now she's she's put it, she didn't have to you know, volunteer to enforce, you know, to I don't know, maybe she felt fear of it was a preemptive move as far as the immigration. I don't know if that was the motive. And that's what you were feeling was the motive to then come back with Cardi on it. I'm not about to get into that type of speculation, but as an MC and her being one of the most prominent female MCs, you know, I would want to see, you know, her in the best light if possible. You know, I am with, I like what Bally recent statement. My Zambian, His Excellency, with his statement, even his national values, his national values speech. He said, if you're corrupt, you're on your own. If you're corrupt, you're on your own. You know, but ultimately, I think that she's a gifted poet. I think she's been a gifted poet. I think she still has a lot of good years with raising her family to contribute to being a poet. And I just, you know, I wouldn't want to see her be canceled for trying to be involved politically. I wish it would have been a little bit more mentoring in it, and a little bit more, a couple more issues that she could have touched on, instead of using her status to immediately jump into the light with the presidential target and bullseye that we know that would have brought. You know, get into some local issues and just some initiatives that don't necessarily have to be politically based, and then get some foundation built on that, and then that would allow you to then segue, and it then allow for us to be better prepared to protect you, to protect you and defend you for the attacks that they've been implementing right now. And so I'm not at privy to now, you know, being a circle the wagon move. You know, I've reached out. I've done some, and then not even personally. I'll reach out to people who might slight me subliminally, who I may feel slighted me subliminally after I've reached out. I still will defend them just for the sake of integrity and for, you know, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, and you shouldn't be canceling someone over that. And so that's the case with that sister. You know, it's I'm limited somewhat in some of the circling the wagons I can do. We know the legal situations with her husband and her brother, and it's only so much you can, you know, defend that in her decision making and choosing those types of alignments. We understand the loyalty to the brother, but still, you know, even with my brother, you know, if he's doing something foolish and I've given him all these types of warnings before he's done his foolishness, then I'm gonna, when the foolishness is done by my brother, I'm gonna give him accountability. I'm gonna have a righteous rage at my older brother. You know, blood brother, same mother, father. I'm gonna have a righteous rage at him as well. You know, because I'm even more harsh because I'm giving you warnings daily. Like, look, come spend some time with me to avoid, you know, the foolishness. And so with her, you know, I would like to see her get a few more initiatives under her belt, and then she could have approached that stage, and then I could have been better prepared to defend her based off of those initiatives. Now, it just seems like she's just trying to, it's too much of an argument that can be made that this is being preemptive to avoid an immigration infraction, you know, that she's delinquent upon, apparently. And so, again, as an MC, Pan-African MC, and not that her interactions has been Pan-African. You know, since I came out with that last video, immediately her response was doing some type of litmus test on the alphabet community, and saying her limits of where she feels as though it's supposed to begin. And that's not to that doesn't meet the standard of being given that platform. It's time to meet up with the president, man. He need to be picking people who got an established platform of comprehensive involvement when you talk about the black community. I'm tired of all these yes people, these people who gotta, you know, show that they've been married to, you know, that they just basically, you know, just to be yes men and yes women, like the senator out of the Carolinas over there, you know, just the diamonds and silks, you feel me? You know, bless they heart, whatever, you know, but we need somebody who would disagree with you on something, and that's going to give you more credibility when you have that, you know. And so, you know, I'm going to keep on applauding the good things I see. I don't think that the Supreme Court was right in striking down the tariffs. Again, if you're spending time with people like Nicki Minaj, you're not developing, and then also with the kidnapping of Maduro, you know, the foreign, you know, I understand we got to count your wins or your precision strikes that then were effective in de-escalation, but still, even then, I'm still not for the strikes that didn't escalate, because I don't think it was necessary. I don't think some of the strikes have been necessary. I don't think that the two carrier strike groups is healthy. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's necessary for the administration. I don't think it's what we voted for. And so, you know, if you're also then bringing these types of people on your platform, you know, it's compounding. It's unforced errors with that. And so I'm hoping that on that. So yeah, as far as with the black community, as far as Trump, who you need to be involving yourself with, you need to be comprehensively interacting internationally on the continent with all of those affirmations that we have reporting on. You know, don't just send your son to Zambia when you know I'm going there to marry my wife. You feel me? Include me in the discussions. You feel me? That's progressive for our self-determination here. You know, don't just allow me to have to amplify myself personally. You feel me? Because like I said, you end up vulnerable when you got the news cycle of your involvement with the black community going into your invasion into Iran, being with the sister who has pedophiles convictions with a husband and a brother and a biological brother. You feel me? It kind of makes it look like he's just trying to avoid the Epstein discussion. But if you got an upstanding sailor like me, who gave you, throughout since 2016, right after supporting Ben Carson's presidential run, we're giving you nothing but diamonds and jewels, you feel me, for your administration. No money more than cut. I'm talking about everything that just would have been right along with the trajectory of your economic policies. Would have had you right on your domestic policies if you would have listened to it. Would have saved all the billions in destructions from the riots after the so-called George Floyd hoax. If you'd have followed my advice that you then was recommended for your second term. You did. I can go down the line. That one Monday morning quarterback that would have saved you, trillions of dollars, because all of the places that did what I said do, they came out better during the COVID hoax. They came out with less violence, less destruction. Okay, so you need to have somebody that's involved with all the affirmations that's on the continent, knows the affairs that's over there, that has comprehensive initiatives on the continent that's been given recognition and acknowledged and successful in campaigns of self-determination in elections and democratic processes. That's what you need to be involved in yourself. So you see how I'm narrowing it down? See how I'm narrowing down the options right here with the resume? Okay? I'm narrowing down who got this resume. And if you're not spending time with them with this executive branch, you're sabotaging the executive branch. Okay? Because ain't nobody gave you the best advice as I have at this point right now. And that's the bottom line. Quit squandering this advice for recklessness. 45, 47. It's the Boiler Monk MC. Surface air warfare is the qualification.